Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at Earth and Sky. Those of you joining us online, we are so excited that we are close to 100 subscribers right now.
Almost.
We are going to be announcing an exciting contest soon, so you might
the
want to go ahead and...
Hyades. We're the Hyades.
Hyades, yes. So subscribe, help us get to this 100 milestone. That's going to be great things for us with naming our channel.
Yep, then we name the channel.
Right, which we're going to just go ahead and dive right in though, because you're here for the content, not the numbers. We are actually we've been doing a little series of deep dives lately. So this is a deep dive into meditation, and we had our first one last week.
Yep.
And this week we're going to go into a little bit more about how to meditate from the beginner's mind. When you're first starting meditation, there's a lot of preconceptions, misconceptions that people have about meditation. Sometimes people feel like it's an abstract concept, or it's a little bit scary, or it's intimidating, and it's people get this negative self-talk sometimes because it's
hippie-ish.
Or it's hippie-ish, because they feel like they hear meditation and they feel like you're supposed to be, levitating on a little cloud with a blank mind,
and you have
and that's not necessarily what you're really trying to reach.
That's not the point.
It's not the point.
The point is how long you can no.
Try it at home.
No.
Okay. No. We're going to get to what we're really doing here.
Okay, yeah, there you go. I like that.
So, one of the really big misconceptions sometimes is that people feel like when they start, whether you call it mindfulness or meditation, that you need to reach this state of having a blank mind, and they feel like every time you try to, you have a thought pop in, then sometimes it can be discouraging. People
I think they hear about monks. Isn't that kind of what the monks always talk about? That's what I always go back to, because I've always heard the monks are like, no, you must clear your mind and just nothingness.
And even the monks actually will really have a strong focus of focusing on one thing. That's a big part of where they started with. Yep. So many monks never reach the blank mind.
Really?
Some do.
Oh, so that's a level
don't.
thing, because that's kind of what we were talking about. I mean, like way down the line, we may discuss the idea of blanking your mind, but that's actually not the point. That's not like, hey, okay, I'm just going to think of nothing and then yay, I'm doing it.
And when we get into our discussion next week or the week after, where we're in the advanced stages, I might talk a little bit about the nirvana that you can feel when you reach the blank mind. But that's not the main goal starting with meditation. And you don't beat yourself up over it when you have thoughts come in, because that's not the point at all.
Well, no, literally the point. One of the main things about the meditation is you're trying to get to the point where you can control if those thoughts come in.
Yeah.
So when you go to meditate, so for me personally, so let's start out. So like when I usually do it, right out the gate, I actually tried the whole blanking my mind thing right away. And so I sit there and I blank, and I'm like, okay.
Here we go, let's do this.
I'm like, so how do you think of blank? I guess you just say blank. And so I would just think blank, nothing, blank, nothing, blank. But that's thinking of something. That's still, you know what I mean? That's not. And so, but the idea of trying to get blank is, that's a totally, the idea of what nothingness isn't what, I don't think most people, you can't grasp it until you get there. And so the idea is, what we're trying to do is we're trying to strengthen the mind. We're trying to get to the point where you actually have just a little bit of control of actually what your brain is going to do. So the best way that I found was, I usually, before I started, like when I first decided, okay, I'm going to meditate. I want to do this and I want to do it right. So I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to create like a script or a story. And I'm going to walk through that story in the meditation. And so, but I found that it was easiest if I needed to get into a calm, quiet, relaxed mindset. And the easiest way I found to do it was just a countdown, because that's pretty much a simple, straightforward way. Everybody knows it's pretty easy if you can just focus on numbers, because we're programmed 1 to 10, 10 to 20, whatever. So you start the countdown. So what I personally do is I use an elevator. And so I see myself at an elevator, and the elevator doors open. And when the doors shut, I think everybody that's ever been in an elevator, if you put yourself there, there's almost a deafening silence that happens when those doors shut for just that second before anything happens. There's that moment of complete silence. And it's really kind of I've always found like, wow, that's, it's really kind of a neat thing, at least for me personally. And so I put myself in an elevator, the doors shut, and then I actually see the doors sort of fade away, and then I see numbers come up. And they're usually bright red numbers, and I see them. And so I have a really busy mind, if you can't tell. And so to get from 10 to 1, I could usually do. Not without too much trouble, without a whole bunch of thoughts that jump in and go in and out. But it doesn't mean I was in that space where I could really stay focused in that meditation. And so I actually started at 20. So I start at 20, and if I can get from 20 to 10 without like a bunch of thoughts jumping in, that means I had calmed myself to the point where I actually could go on down to 1. And I think like as a starting point, I think most people, if you can just go, you see them in your head, you see the numbers, 20, bright red numbers, 19. 18. Now usually 17, now you start, there's a little thought that wants to tickle. 16, there's maybe, all of a sudden you'll catch yourself, oh, there was that thing that happened with the guy and I needed to, and what was that? Oh, I need to remember, and you go, oh, whoops, they crept in. But those are the things that we're trying to control. So the fact, you shouldn't get upset or frustrated because...
Just acknowledge it, just accept it. You're just being an observer.
Yeah, so it happens. So you go, oh, okay, I haven't calmed enough. I haven't focused quite enough. So then, when those things creep in and I go, okay, yep, all right, calm, relax, and then I start again, 20, 19, 18. Now, when I was first starting, I would do it, I would restart sometimes 5, 6, 7, 10 times. And there were times that I would notice, then it was 20, 19, another thought would come in, and it was the 4th or 5th time I'd started again, and I could feel myself getting a little irritated, and I'm, 20, and then the thing, gosh darn it, and then I go, okay, I'm not in the right spot today, and I would let it go that day. Then the next day I would start, okay, start again, and it's one of those, that's the whole point is you're trying to train. You don't walk into a gym and try to lift 300 pounds. This is where I'm going to start. The brain is the same way. That control is just like, it's your muscle. You're trying to learn how to do it. And so you calm, you get there. So let's say you get down to 10 and you haven't had any bunch of thoughts. Then you try to get down to 1. Now when I go from 10 to 1, I actually relax my body in between each step. From 10, I relax my body. 9, I relax my body. 8, I relax. And so by the time you get to 1, I've now focused my mind and calmed my body with it. And then when I hit 1, I personally, when I see the 1, I see that big 1 right here, and that actually becomes like the elevator doors. And that 1 opens up. And now that's so, and then now you've reached the bottom of the elevator ride, whatever you want to do. And so now I usually personally go down. I always think of it, I'm going down into my subconscious. I'm going down into my person. I've talked to some people and they were like, why would you go down? Like going down is this horrible thing. There's only bad things down there. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, okay, well, I guess, if you want to go up, I don't see there being really an issue. I know, for me personally, there's 2 main reasons why I go down. And it's because, 1, I like to, when it hits 1, I like the elevator doors to open, so I have 1. And when I get into the elevator to come back up, my default is immediately thinking, okay, if I'm going to come out of this meditation, my first thought is 1. It's not, okay, 20, and that's just not where I personally start. So that's one thing, is it's 20 to 1, 1 to 20. And the second thing is, if I go up, that to me is going into sunshine. And I'm trying to be calm and quiet and relaxed and up in the sky with a bunch of sunshine and clouds and blue skies and whatever, which is where that would put me in my mind. That makes me much more, energized and ready to go, and I want to be calm. So that's one of the reasons why I go down instead of up. Now, when I do this, I try and bring in all of the things that I can think of. Smells, sounds specifically. I very much focus on sounds myself. So like when I come down and it's 1 and the door's open, I hear the doors, and I hear the doors open. I usually walk out onto like an aluminum plank, and that aluminum sound has a very distinctive tink to it, and so I hear that. Then I walk over, I go downstairs, and then I walk across, it's a gravel floor, and so I'm always in a very long, dark tunnel, because you can do anything with a long, dark tunnel, which is nice. If you want to recreate whatever you want in this thing. Having a really, really long, dark tunnel, you can do anything. You put doors in there, you can put, piping and whatever you want to do. But I always walk across the gravel floor, and so there's that same, that sound that it makes when you walk. And so I try to bring all of that in when I'm going through my meditation. And the more of that you do, the more your brain has to really work hard to stay focused on that one thing, which is kind of the point. And so
it's kind of like isolating a muscle. What you mentioned, it's really we are learning to work out your brain muscle.
Right, yes.
So you're isolating the muscle.
Yes. Well, yeah, you're isolating each one of those things. Yeah, and it's each one of those things is like adding more weight. Each one of those senses you're adding to the brain is like more weight that you have to lift with your arms if you're working out. And so so I always go, you can go in, you can stand there for a little while. I usually go in and just, when I get in there, into my little tunnel, I actually just kind of bask in the silence. Because if you can really get there, no matter what's going on around you, it all falls away. So even though, like I usually do it in the shower, so a minimum there's a sound of fairly loud running water. And when I go down in the elevator and I step out, if I'm really there, all of that's gone. I don't hear it, I don't sense it, and so I'm completely out of my element, and so I can just sit there in a moment and just like bask in the silence. And then if you can do that, and then just walk back to the elevator doors open, you go in, they close. I actually have all the buttons on the side, so I actually hit the number 20 button. And then again, watch the 1 comes up, the 2 comes up, and then you get to 20. And if you go through that, the more you do that, the more you'll realize that, oh wow, like after you do that for a while, you suddenly, what that does is that allows you those moments where maybe something would irritate you. You suddenly notice that you will have more control of your patience. You have more control of your reactions to situations. You have more control over what you feel, what you're thinking, and your reactions to the world. And to me, that is kind of the definition of a much nicer life, is to decide how your life is going to run and how you're going to react to it, as opposed to reacting to it, looking at it later and going, yeah, I guess that was a good reaction. I don't know if that was a very good reaction, but maybe that was an okay reaction, and you can only look at it in hindsight. Actually having that choice up front, to me, really, it can make an enormous difference.
Absolutely. And when you're exercising your mind with meditation, when you're really starting to go into this journey and you have all those other thoughts or the distractions that happen, maybe you hear a noise that happens around you, or someone's walking through the house, or you just suddenly realize you've been thinking about what you're going to cook for dinner for the night, Whatever those thoughts are, it's really important to be gentle with yourself, because as you're training it, it's almost like, consider training a puppy. If you're training a puppy, it's a new animal that's new to this world. They don't know a whole lot of how to have control of the mind, and so the puppy runs in circles and chases its tail and runs against the wall, a new person, and gets so excited. And that's how your mind is. Your mind pings from one thing to the next all the time. And so be gentle with yourself, just as if you were training a puppy, and you want to be kind, be loving, be supportive, as you're giving gentle and firm reminders of, oh yes, we're starting back over again.
What do the Buddhists call that? The monkey mind?
The monkey mind.
Monkey mind,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, some would refer to it as the monkey mind
I like
instead.
that, yeah. I just thought that was such because monkeys.
Exactly, because truly that's what our mind does, and if we have no control of it, and if we're not being in the driver's seat with it, a lot of times we feel like we have a lot of control in life, where you might feel like, oh, I pay attention to all the details, I get all this done, I've got my to-do list, I'm on track, I've got a very productive life, yet you go in to be with a quiet mind, and you have no control of your mind. You have no ability to just really stop, shut everything down, and just allow yourself to be in the present moment, which really is the goal of all of it, is being in the present moment, having nothing going on except what's in the present moment. And accepting what's in the present moment is a big part of that. Accepting, being the observer within your mind, not the judger, not the executioner, not the jury. Be the observer, simple observer, knowing that whatever you're doing, it's okay. The more you can get down in that countdown, whether you're starting at 10 or you're starting at 20, the farther you get down is showing you that you have more control. Even that I wouldn't judge as good or bad. No. I wouldn't say, I did really good, I made it through the countdown, I only had to restart 4 times today. You just go, oh, this seems to be, working a little bit easier. My brain and I are syncing up more as one. I only had to repeat it, maybe 6 times. Maybe that's progress. Yeah. You might find that the first few times you do the countdown, you never even get halfway down before you're really done. We're going to get into next week a little advanced technique with that as well. But it's so important to just kind of see where you are with it. Be gentle with yourself. Be the observer. And just notice how it feels as you're going through. I like that you mentioned being in the shower when you do it, because you can meditate wherever you are, whatever's going on, whatever feels right for you. With you would do your best thinking in the shower before, so it made sense to be the place to meditate. Think about where you think in life. Where do you do your best thinking? Maybe it's the shower, maybe it's in the morning before you get out of bed, maybe it's in bed when you're getting done for the night, maybe it's with your cup of coffee as you're planning out your day. That's going to be a good time to meditate, because that's a time where your brain is focused and alert. You don't want to do it when you're really tired. You want to do it when you're alert, because you're training your brain. Think about when you would go to the gym to work out. You're going to want to have yourself awake for that. Same thing with meditation. You're really learning to exercise this muscle in your brain. But I also like you mentioning the shower because of the aspect of the sound. People can get a sound machine too, and sometimes that will help to have crickets in the background or the ocean wave sound in the background. Now you can probably do it with your smartphone instead of a sound machine. But something that can help to pull away some of the distractions can help in the beginning too, so that it makes it so there's something to focus on. That's what the Buddhists do in the beginning too, is to have something to focus on. Sometimes that means it's their posture that they're focusing on, or the breath. It's important too. When you meditate, do you control your breath, or do you just observe your breath when you're counting?
I do everything in my power not to pay attention to anything in my body.
Perfect.
My whole point is to forget my body.
Yeah.
And to be wholly in whatever the thought is that I'm doing.
And one of the things that we were talking about that's good too is, we'll get into breath stuff later, because there's different philosophies on that. But it's important to have a good spinal posture when you're starting the meditation. So you want to have your spine nice and straight. That's going to help all of the fluids in your spine to move up to your brain, down through your body. It also opens you to the higher states of consciousness, and it helps to keep you centered in your body too. It's going to help you to more comfortably go into meditation. Now at the same time, it doesn't mean that you have to keep that the entire time.
Because I do the opposite.
Some of the Buddhist philosophies will say you have to stay very, very straight, and they will correct you if you start to slouch at all with a stick. It's not punishment, but it is a stick that they use to whack you on the shoulder. But it's to help you. But for some, that's more distracting. If you're focusing the whole time on having your spine straight, then perhaps
my brain has to put some effort towards keep it straight, keep it straight.
So instead, you tend to count down 20 to 10 with your spine straight, and then naturally, gradually, you forget about the body, it kind of moves forward into a...
Well, I do the 20 to 10, And that's where I'm usually, because I'm making sure that I've calmed myself and my brain's focused enough to get there. And then at 10, I actually go.
Like vertebrae by vertebrae
Yeah,
almost.
well, just
kind of sinking down.
more relaxed. Like the idea of like if you were to sit in a chair and fall asleep, but sitting up.
Mhm.
So that's where I let my body go, because then I'm not focusing on. Again, I'm not focusing on
Muscles.
muscles.
Strength.
Yeah, exactly. I can completely. My body is stable and relaxed, and then I can completely go into my mind.
And then when you pull out of it, when you count from 1 to 10, you tend to slowly bring
Yeah,
yourself up.
I do.
And then
Yep.
from 11 to 20, you have
I'm
that nice
here
posture
through
again.
that last part.
Which
Yep.
is helpful in waking yourself up. And muscle memory, just like muscles in the body, muscle memory will really help take you somewhere. So when you start each meditation the same way, perhaps in the same place, some say that when you're starting meditation, if you do it in the same room, wearing the same type of thing, with the same kind of ritual around it, it makes it easier. So you start with that straight posture. It signals to your brain, oh, we're going into this seated position. My spine's really straight. It's time to start to relax.
Because we're programmable creatures.
Exactly. Even the brain has muscle memory.
Yep.
And so it's a great way to start that signal and then begin to relax it and let it go. Also, working with all of the senses, as you mentioned, can really help tremendously. Build out your meditation space within your mind. Create a space that you want to go to. Yours is quite technical. It has control switches
I do.
and panels.
I actually have a control room. I have a mental stimulation room. I have, yeah, oh, okay, yeah, and I have, actually, yeah, I have it's basically my energy drain area, and like I can, like, my chi energy, whatever, that energy. I have one that actually I can see it in a little pipe, and I have a release valve, and it drains all of it out, and then it refreshes, and then I have a thing that once it's drained, the thing automatically shuts off, and then it replenishes itself with energy that's come straight from the earth in my mind. So that's what.
Yeah, so you can make it very technical like that if you're a technical person, or you might take yourself out to the forest, or you might take yourself to the ocean. Depends on what you like best, what type of place relaxes you, refreshes you, but engage all the senses. Think about the smells, the tastes, the sounds, how it feels. If you're walking in your meditation in your mind, think of how it feels on your feet. Think of the breeze that you might feel in the air. Think of the sounds. If it's a space like yours, hear the whooshing sound as the drain pulls it away, and that sound as it fills back up.
I hear knobs when I turn them, and
clicking, really build it out. The more you build out your senses, the deeper that's going to be programmed in your mind, so you can bring it up very, very quickly.
It's much easier
when you need to.
And it puts you deeper into it.
Very
which
much
is,
so.
I mean, that's the kicker, is that, I mean, those are the ones, it's when you start adding senses and stuff into it where you can really, when you're really there, you really start to understand when you get there, when you start to come out, what a difference. I mean, you literally can feel yourself being pulled out of that meditation, where instead of these are just thoughts in your head, when you start to get deeper and deeper into that meditation, you'll realize that you've gone actually deep into a meditation when you can feel yourself literally being like pulled out of it, and when you open your eyes, you feel like you're like, oh, I'm back, like you had actually gone somewhere, like you weren't in you anymore, and that's one of those big ones. So I mean, it tells you that you're getting there. You're really starting to flex your muscles to the point where you can get deep into that meditation.
Exactly. And there's another beginning technique that you can do where instead of counting 20 to 10, 10 to 1, you can use it with your breath. So you're not trying to force the breath or anything. You're just observing your breath, and you're thinking to yourself, counting 1 as you breathe in, 2 as you breathe out, 1 as you breathe in, 2 as you breathe out, continuing that. Or for some, they would want to count up, so 1 as you breathe in, 2 as you breathe out, 3 as you breathe in, 4 as you breathe out. If you're doing that, go to 10 and then stop and repeat it again. If you are trying to get yourself to go into higher and higher numbers, then your brain's going to have to think a little bit harder. So you can either just keep cycling, breathing in 1, breathing out 2. Repeating that can be very deeply relaxing.
I would say that sounds more, It seems more like a relaxation technique as opposed to a meditation.
It can lead you into the meditation
Okay.
space, though. A lot of people relate in different ways. So
I
for some,
understand.
that would work better to get into it. It really depends on what
Okay.
you feel as a person. And for some, it would be counting to 10 and then starting over, counting to 10 again with each breath.
Okay.
But meditation is really amazing and interesting because as different as everyone's brains and personalities are
Right.
from each other, the way we program our brains is going to be the same way too. Just like if you have somebody that has a physical structure to their body and someone else who's vastly different, their workout techniques are going to be pretty different from each other.
Absolutely.
Same thing with meditation, and you're actually learning to exercise like biofeedback, which is a great way to really program the mind. As you're doing this and you're building out your space, you're programming what it looks like, you're really building that brain muscle to do biofeedback, which is where you can really take control and harness the power in your life. I remember doing biofeedback for a while where they have you linked into a computer, so you simply think things and you move the ball on the screen or change things on the computer by thinking it. And so
focus, and as you can focus on it more.
right, it's the brain muscle without moving your hands is changing things, and that really can lead in more advanced ways into telepathy and things like that too. So we'll get into that stuff later on as well. But at this point, you're really learning to control your mind. How powerful is that? To be able to control your mind.
Yeah.
And then when you're in a situation where something very unexpected has happened and you're not quite sure how to deal with it, you're able to much more calmly and peacefully address the situation. You're able to keep your awake, focused, conscious mind and not act emotionally or rashly or freeze or want to flee.
Yeah, or just, I mean, it's just that simple sense of learning to start to just where you actually have a choice. You don't spend your life in reaction mode, you actually get to choose.
Right. Be gentle like you're playing with, like you're training a puppy. Make it yours. Make it
You're
what
the
you
puppy.
want it to be. And play with it. Really have fun playing with meditation.
And with the storyline, so you know, before you go into it, you might want to take a minute and figure out what you want to do. Because if you try to do it on the fly, you spend so much time and energy trying to figure out what am I going to do next, that it kind of loses the whole rhythm of it. And so once you build out a story, I really suggest that you go through that story like many times, where it becomes completely second nature. There's almost not a thought in your mind. It's just the rhythm that you do. And once you've done that so many times, then you can start going, okay, I've decided I'm going to try, and you can add something. And I would just add one thing, maybe one thing at a time. And then when you add that one thing, you go through that process, and then you add that one thing, and then the rest of it is the same. And it's that repetition and that control that you do over and over again that really adds and makes it where that's how you're strengthening the muscle, is that repetition.
And see how it fits within your meditation too. See how it fits, see how it feels when you're in the space. Keeping it short when you're starting is very, very helpful too.
Yep.
If you're just starting out, a 2-minute meditation can be perfect. It can be just enough to really train the mind, and then build your way up to 5 minutes. Don't start out.
Mine's it varies from 2 to 5. 5 is
Okay.
my longer ones that I do.
Yeah.
But the 2-minute ones, I've learned to go so deep that those 2 minutes, they last forever sometimes. But it's awesome. I mean, it's a good time. But I can do a lot in 2 minutes in my mind now because of that repetition of going deeper and deeper.
Exactly, and coming back when your mind wanders. Anytime your mind wanders, just bring it on back, being gentle with yourself, knowing that you're just the observer. Sometimes I like to imagine myself in the back of my head just as an observer, and I watch what's going on in the mind, and I see you can really learn to gauge yourself that way too, to gauge what's going on within you by sitting and watching.
It's so funny, because see, even when you say that, I look at it the exact opposite. It's literally, the whole point is the control not the observer. I'm not removed from my brain, I am completely taking over my brain. So I
Yeah.
literally see it, absolutely.
So
When you
funny.
say observer, I'm like, wait, no, that's opposite. But I mean, but if
That's
people
so
may
funny.
see it, that might make more sense to
And
them.
there's so many different ways to meditate, which we'll
Absolutely.
get into
Yep.
more later too. We've got
Exactly.
some really exciting things coming up in the next couple of weeks with this. But do you have any other final thoughts before we move on?
I don't think so. I think
Consist-
that's about it. Consistency.
Consistency is a big part of this. So don't get discouraged. If you
Yeah.
miss a day, then as soon
That's
as you
fine.
think of it,
Do
go
it
ahead and
again.
do it.
Yeah.
If you only have 30 seconds to meditate, do
Do
it,
it.
because consistency is the biggest
Yeah,
key.
try to
Don't
do it
feel like
at least once a day.
yeah, don't feel like you have to carve out a half hour
Right.
and just to
And-
meditate.
yeah,
If you're
I
doing
couldn't.
something like Reiki or other healing techniques, meditate while you're doing Reiki.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then spend a couple minutes afterwards basking in the energies and meditating, because that's a
Mm-hmm.
great way to really open everything up at the end of your Reiki session. It might be 2 minutes at the end of it that will be, really interesting as a way to feel that meditative space. Doing it daily, doing it consistently, being gentle with yourself as you're training this muscle. We don't often talk about training the muscle of our mind, and it's so powerful, it's so important. It's the biggest key to learning to manifest your destiny, to be the director of your fate, to harness your life, and to really be able to move yourself forward and to reach the points we'll talk about later with reaching enlightenment, reaching key insights, being able to hear the downloads of the universe. There's so much that this will lead to. The starting point is getting your body to relax, feeling peaceful throughout the day, being able to, if your energy is low, pull it up in 30 seconds through a simple meditation. And how often have you seen me do that?
Oh my
Just
God.
come in and totally crashed, totally wiped. I need 30 seconds, meditate, pull it up. Okay, let's go, let's
Everything's
run
good.
more,
Yep, yep.
And so everything is in balance. You don't want to use it as an all the time thing for, pushing yourself too
Right.
far, but it's an amazing way to also put yourself to sleep.
Yeah.
It's
That's what-
amazing.
It's helped me with sleep so much. And that's why, like,
yeah,
when
you
we
used to have tremendous insomnia,
absolutely.
and you don't
hours,
now.
Hours and hours I would lay in bed. And that's why when you said the breathing thing, I was like, that's one of the ways. Like when I do, I count my breaths, and when I start to pay attention to my body and I calm my body by paying attention to my body, I just turn off. My brain just shuts down. And so when you said that, I'm like, I'm not sure that's a great meditation, because I'll be like, okay, I'll just do this.
And the funny thing is, it's all how you train your mind. So if
Right.
you train your mind that means relax, then your body's going to
Relax,
respond.
right,
That
that's
means
true,
relax. If you have
absolutely.
certain things you train your mind,
Yep.
energy,
Yep.
it's going to pull
But I
you
always
up
do
for
that
energy.
when I'm going to sleep.
Which
so.
is going to always
Right,
put you
exactly,
out.
exactly,
And
right,
so that's kind
all
of
about
the
the
same
program.
thing with, starting the meditation with a really nice straight spine. It's going to signal to your brain over and over, whichever way the meditation's going.
Yep.
We're in meditation mode
Yep.
now. So I hope this has helped you with some of those beginner tips of how to start your journey with meditation. Meditation is so life-changing. It will change the way you look at the world. It will change the way you're able to do time management. It will change the
Yep.
way synchronicities seem to appear and fall into your lap and just happen
Yep.
in life. It
Good
will change
things.
the way you heal.
Yep.
Everything about
Everything
your
about
life,
it.
your responses to people, your response time, it's limitless, the powerful things that happen from meditation. So I hope this helps encourage you to go ahead and do 2 minutes right now of meditation while you're thinking about it, and then maybe wake up tomorrow and do it again. You might want to break it up into 2 or 3 meditation times during the day. The biggest thing is just consistency. Just make sure you're doing it, do it daily, and reap those wonderful benefits. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and if you have any comments, feedback, or topic suggestions, go ahead and message us or put those comments right down below. We look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. Thank you again to everyone who joins us here live as well. Have a great week, everyone.